Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License Flight number 19 with service to TV Heaven, aka cancellation. We ask that you please fasten your headphones at this time, secure your podcasting device, and remember that even if your flight gets canceled, you can always cherish the memories you made along the way.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Jeff Curvis, joined by Max Singer and Rich Inman. Last show of the year, y'all.
Absolutely, Yog Shemayach.
Yeah, no, end of 2022. How are you feeling about that?
Oh God, it's bittersweet. I'm excited for the new year, both personally and pilot season. It's been crazy. We've been doing this show since September now. Thank you to everyone who's been tuning in, follow us along the way on this journey. We're excited to have you. Thank you all.
And Rich, how about you?
Absolutely. I am super excited for the new year with you guys as well. This has been like a really exciting journey that we've been on together. And guess what? You can't get canceled if no one's giving you money. So suck it, everyone. If you're listening to this, I want you to know from the bottom of all of our hearts, suck it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will say from the bottom of my heart, for anyone who's joined us this wild ride that we call our podcast, thank you. But this episode, I'm not even going to ask Max to explain what our podcast is all about, because we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of talking about a beloved TV show or maybe a cult classic or something that has recently been like a brief flame, we're going to all talk about a TV show that premiered and got canceled in the year of our Lord 2022. So as we go into this, Rich, do you have a question of the week for us?
Yeah, I sure do. Because I know I can tell from both of your facial expressions, we're about to get pretty negative. So I'd like to liven up the mood a little bit and ask if there are any shows that debuted this year that you do like and you actually are going to keep watching, because we're not talking about those this year or this week.
What a great question. I think if I have to go to one, because I am the self-designated comic book Star Wars nerd of all of us, I'm going to have to shout out Andor. Absolutely amazing show. Not even just like good Star Wars show, just a great show with really well-built characters on if I was to tell someone, hey, we're going to do this like very small period of time before like Star Wars really existed in the minds and hearts of people, but like after the prequels, a lot of you would say like, why would I care? But I have gotten so invested in Andor as a whole and the characters, and I think it's just a lovely show, and 10 out of 10 would recommend.
If you want to hear a podcast talk about some of the amazing shows that debuted this year, such as Severance, Yellowjackets, Wednesday, there's plenty of other podcasts that you can listen to that are going to talk about those shows. They're all wonderful. They've all either gotten Emmy nominations or deserve Emmy nominations in the future. We're not doing those shows today. I want to give a shout out to, one, Severance. I'm super excited to see where that's going to go in the future. I think that the cliffhanger of season 1 is so captivating. I think they're building a really cool world there. But I also want to shout out a show over at FX called Fleischman is in Trouble, starring Jesse Eisenberg, Lizzie Kaplan,
I've wanted
Claire
to start
Danes,
watching that.
and Adam Brody. It's really good adult TV. It's one of those shows where there's so much dialogue, but everybody just bodies it. Like everyone keeps up with like the flow and the pacing of it so nicely. It's really sharply written. It's really funny. It utilizes like flashbacks and alternating timelines in a really interesting way. And it's just a really good adult dramedy. And it's definitely not a bingeable show. Like you watch one and you need a break. You need a cigarette and a drink afterwards. But it's really good TV. I definitely recommend checking that out.
Rich, what about you?
Absolutely. Well, I've heard amazing things about both of those shows. Jeff, I've heard personally, as we discussed in the Batman episode, I have an aversion to things that have 19 million like retellings of the same story, which is what has turned me off of a lot of the Star Wars properties, like The Mandalorian or literally any of the last like 7 movies. Um, but I have heard from like a non like superhero, non geek culture perspective that it is like actually a legitimately good show on its own. Definitely heard some amazing things about Fleischman is in Trouble. Severance is definitely at the top of my list for this year. That was a show that was extremely surprising, how good it was. And I think I'm also going. The Bear was also exceptional. A lot of people talked about
Oh
the Bear
yeah.
this year.
Oh yeah.
But also I want to give a shout out to a show that is ending right now, and or just aired its last episode fairly recently. But the R.I.P. to the wonderful show that was Atlanta, and that I loved absolutely with my entire heart. Every episode felt like a movie. Every episode felt like a different type of movie, and in a way that Community couldn't do. And yeah, I'm just going to deeply, deeply miss that show. And just knowing that there's no future episodes to look forward to either this year or like in the coming years is going to be pretty upsetting. But I don't know if you guys caught the Goofy movie episode, but
Oh
it
my
was
god.
like, oh, it's so friggin' funny and so stupid. And I've obviously loved Donald Glover for a very, very long time, since he was in that Derek comedy sketch group at NYU. And you can definitely still see, despite all of like the prestige of Atlanta that came about, you can still see that exact same type of humor in that Goofy movie episode. And it felt like very comforting to know that he still has that in him.
Yeah, something that Atlanta did over its time that I love so much, and the Goofy movie episode really highlighted that to like its highest form. Atlanta could take a really small bit of like internet culture or like an internet
Mm-hmm.
meme, and they could blow it into such a deeper, developed, thought out joke or
Yes.
plot point, and it wasn't like making a reference to a meme for the sake of making a reference to something that was topical or pop culture. It was like really taking it to a level that you can't even imagine getting to on your own. And I'm gonna miss seeing that on TV for sure.
Yeah, anyone who knows me knows that I am a gigantic fan of Donald Glover in everything that he does. He is probably my favorite creator, and I use that term creator rather than artist
Yeah.
because he literally does everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and I can confidently say, maybe sometime in 2023, Atlanta might have to be one of the shows that we do on this podcast.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
100%. Well, for today, unfortunately, we're not doing any of those shows. But we're going to do something a little bit different. We gave each other a little bit of separate homework. We each watched a pilot of a TV show that was canceled this year and decided to bring it in, talk a little bit about what the show is about, how it was made, things that happened in the episode, and see if we do a decent enough job of selling said show to our fellow co-pilots. So I'm going to begin just to kick things off. And I did the Fox TV show of Monarch. So, little synopsis for you fellows. The Romans have created a country music dynasty, but when their reign as country royalty is put in jeopardy, Nicolette will stop at nothing to protect her family's legacy. Now, I
Can we
feel
already like stop and just say like how like ham-fisted it is to call the family the Romans and to say that they created an empire?
Oh,
it's way too easy.
so let's just start off with like a couple of things. One, I'm recording in my not usual place. I'm recording in Nashville, which you would think is the home of country music in the current
is that
state.
Jack White behind you?
But this show actually takes place in Texas, and they're really trying to shove it down your throat that Texas is the place for country music. But I want to talk a little bit about the history of the show because it's super duper interesting what went into it. So this show was basically the first TV production that the creator, Melissa London Hilfers, was a part of. She had created some shorts and produced some shorts as well. But there's a ton of when I say star power, folks who have history within the industry behind her. John Herman Fellman, who you might know for working on things like Dawson's Creek. Gail Herman, who was responsible for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Malcolm in the Middle, Bernie Mac. She basically created reality TV as we know it on Fox with things like American Idol, Hell's Kitchen, Nanny 911. She also saw the creation of Arrested Development, The OC, Bones, Family Guy, and more recently she was an EP on Wednesday on Netflix. So there is a lot going on. And then the director of the show was Jason Eisler, who started off in marketing for a lot of big TV shows, but he also has directed a ton of TV shows that might sound familiar: West Wing, Scrubs, Psych, Gossip Girl, Chuck, a ton. His resume is gigantic.
There's hope for you guys to direct TV yet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really hoping my fourth career is.
Based on my pilot, I bet I could do it.
So one other interesting fact about this show was considered a first for Fox, and it was wholly owned and produced by Fox Entertainment Studios. The idea behind this is hysterical looking back now that the show was canceled. The idea was, let's create a studio structure where we don't have everyone giving notes on different levels, but instead just have one group of people that are responsible for picking the show, producing the show, and putting it to air. Show was originally called The Untitled Country Music Dynasty. It was purchased in 2021. And it also...
No one tell Jeff that's a placeholder.
And there was Michael Rausch was also involved in co-creating the show. He was supposedly in the background helping Melissa London. So the episode that we're talking about is Stop at Nothing, number 1. On this show, on the face value, this show cannot miss because Susan Sarandon and Trace Adkins both star as I almost want to imagine them as imagine if Tim McGraw and Dolly Parton were married. That is sort of the vibes and the energy that they're giving off. They are really this can't miss couple. They own all of the hits. In this universe, if you think of a country music hit that was sung by a woman, it was not sung by whom we know it singing. It was sung by Dottie. So an example, Man, I Feel Like a Woman, Shania Twain exists in this universe, but Dottie made the song famous. Absolutely bonkers mindset. They have 3 kids.
What an insane premise.
So
how would they do that?
So the show definitely mixes. They do covers of really famous songs, and then they also have a few songs that they have actually made and produced for these singers.
Oh boy.
So they're basically like, what if Elvis existed in 2018 or whatever?
Yeah, no, it is
cool.
It's insane. Let's talk about all the things that happen in this episode because they're expecting a lot of you. And if we found anything, it's pilots that pack way too much in that seem to be a little bit worrisome. So at the beginning, we start off with just 3 months earlier, or 3 months later. That is what the title is. Trace Adkins shoots someone, a shadowy figure, with a shotgun and says, "A Roman never forgets a friend or an enemy." And then boom, and we cut immediately to
dramatic.
A gigantic press conference. Wow. Yeah, gigantic press conference
that has big,
before the CMAs. It definitely is. I was like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. CMAs, we find out that Susan Sarandon's character is getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, but then there's rumors in the press that she has actually planted that she has cancer. So everyone's sort of like, how long do you have to live? At her press conference for the Lifetime Achievement Awards, spoiler alert, she does in fact have terminal cancer. She only has months to live, supposedly. Well, we have Trace Adkins and Susan Sarandon. The real focus of the show is the children. So we have Nicolette, who's played by Annie Friel, who was in Pushing Daisies. She's been groomed to be Dottie's successor of like this next big thing in country. But just like in Hollywood, if you're a woman over the age of 40 in country music, guess what? You don't have a future of being a star in country music. Then there is Gigi Georgina, played by Beth Ditto. I know her from the band Gossip, and she was definitely brought in to be the powerhouse singer of this show. She's not a singer by trade, though. Instead, she owns a country bar in Texas, and she got out of the family business because of body image issues and her family not being okay with her sexuality as a whole. Very complicated history. Then we have Luke Roman, who's played by Joshua Sassy, who, if you watch Gallivant, is Sir Gallivant. Amazing voice. One of these guys where you're like, oh, cool, he's going to be singing all the time? Nope, he's the CEO of the family record label. So a lot of confusing things. There's a lot of stuff that I would love to cover that happens in this. But we don't have 2 hours because I think I could do an entire thesis about this show. But let's talk about a couple of other highlights. Dottie receives her Lifetime Achievement Award but chooses not to sing, which is deemed controversial. They have a family reunion where we get everyone singing, including the kids who also want to be singers in the family business. But we find out that Nicolette's husband is cheating on her with a movie star. More to come on that. At the end of the family reunion, Gigi decides to come out of singing retirement and basically lets Nicolette know that the only reason she stopped singing is because Nicolette wanted it more and Gigi knew she would outshine her. So that's a plot line that we could possibly go. But before we have this big sing-off at the family reunion, Susan Sarandon's character goes to Nicolette and says, "You're going to help me kill myself." That is, yeah. But let's just simmer on that for a little bit.
Okay.
So Nicolette says no at first. At the end of the family reunion, basically Dottie is like, Nicolette's going to do it. Nicolette's going to help me kill myself. We start to see some shady shit happen in the background. Like Dottie's been giving this random lawyer who represents these shady people $50,000 a month every month for like years because they have some dirt on her. And as she's preparing to what she thinks will be her demise, she goes and she gives her like last words to everyone on her terms. Dottie is very much a her terms human being. And the wildest conversation that happens is she goes to Trace Adkins' character, Albie, and she says, "Do you have any regrets? Do you have anything that like secrets or things that you've never told me?" Because he's called the Texas Truth Teller. That is his nickname.
He's got a lot of nicknames.
What a horrible nickname.
Yeah, and then he admits that he had an affair with a woman who worked on their property, but he, like, I don't even want to say he called it off. She disappeared after there was a gigantic barn fire at her property. As he is saying this, we see a flashback to young Dottie, who is played by Susan Sarandon's daughter, which I thought was a great little touch. And she lit the fire of the barn, and we hear screaming from the barn. So we know that Dottie killed this woman. Dottie slaps him, says she knew all along, and then 2 minutes later, we see Susan Sarandon overdose on pain pill medication because her daughter throws it down her throat, makes her drink, and then Gigi sees her sister standing over her dead mom holding the bottle of pills. That's the end of the episode.
Jesus.
So...
Wait. All of the marketing for this show is Susan Sarandon.
Yes, that is... So I have...
Let me go back in time.
So I have some legacy stuff I want to talk about. This show had 11 episodes. It just recently was announced its cancellation. Fun fact, the premiere episode was the most watched fall scripted debut for Fox in the past 3 years. Wow. That is saying something. There are some other big shows that have made it through Fox.
Jeff, there's like so many contingencies on that as you went down the line. It's the most watched fall debut. I'm like, okay, on Fox, okay. In the last 3 years, I'm like, what's premiered? I don't know.
But like, it definitely got people really excited because they were like, oh, cool, we have this really big premiere. People tuned in. I think this show could have survived if they marketed it differently and surprised everyone with Susan Sarandon being in the show. But Max, as you said, I literally looked back at all of the promos for the show. Every single one. I spent way too much time learning about the marketing of the show. Everyone focused on Susan Sarandon as a character, as a whole. And if you want to say a show is a failure because they kill off the marketed character in the first 50-minute episode of the show or 45-minute episode of the show, you might be correct. Now, spoiler alert for everyone who is listening. I have watched 8 episodes of this show with my wife. This is not the first time I saw this pilot.
8 episodes? Wow.
8 episodes.
You give it a hell of a chance.
They used Susan Sarandon so sporadically, it should be Susan Sporadic Sarandon, throughout the entirety of this episode of this show.
Incredible nicknames all around.
But yeah, I said a lot. What are your two, based off of everything I said? I know you probably have more questions than thoughts. Give me a couple questions that you might have.
Yeah, I mean, from the premise of it immediately, it sounds like they want to make Empire, but for white country music fans.
Like Empire meets Yellowstone. Am I getting that?
Yeah.
I sort of got that too. The other one was, I think Fox watched the show Nashville that happened on ABC and was like
a long time ago, right?
It was like in the mid 2010s. Right? Okay. And they were like, ooh, we want to make a version of that too, but it can't be in Nashville. It has to be in Texas. And I also, my wife and I, throughout watching this series, have debated, like, do we think that Texas just pulled up and as like a state and was like, here's all the money and we won't charge you taxes to be able to film this show here? Like, there's just, and it's not a cheap show either. Gigantic set pieces are used, like, wild amounts of effort here.
10-gallon hats.
Well, okay, so I am curious about, you know, obviously Nashville is the epicenter of country music. However, country music has kind of branched off into, like, you know, regular country and bluegrass, and then also stadium country, which I don't know if stadium country has its foothold in like Texas in particular or something.
So like, it's definitely the type of music that they choose to do is very much, I like calling it pop country, right? Because it's stuff that you could listen on the radio, and they take a lot of pop songs and turn them into the country version of them, which is a choice. Like, will I lie?
Which is a choice.
But like, I will say this, Trace Adkins sings a lot in this show, and I'm like, cool, I love Trace Adkins. I think he's a great country star. And like, Susan Sarandon can sing. The actress who plays Nicolette can sing. The actor who plays, like they picked a lot of singers, but then they sort of are just like, this Nicolette is our main singer, and I think the actress is fantastic. I think she's the weakest singer of all of the characters on the show, and that also is, she's singing on every single episode, and she is the one who is singing the most.
All right, so I got a question on that note. We can dive into all 8 episodes that you've watched here, Jeff. What is the best cover and worst cover you heard in 8 episodes of the show?
Oh my god, what a great...
so there's also a Glee element to this.
There is a Glee element, but like they chose to make sure that they were making original songs as well, so that they could be profiting off of having the songs on Spotify as well, which I think is like a sort of smart move.
I don't know, man. Glee dominated the iTunes charts and did a stadium tour. I think they were doing just fine with covers.
Yeah, it's just they did I Got Friends in Lowly Places, and I just love that song, so I was like, cool, I'm completely in. But there is a episode that they do, which I thought was very funny. They did a Christmas special episode that was like the idea of all Christmas specials are filmed in July, and they sort of like tongue-in-cheek did that, but they did all of the Christmas songs, and it was in, I think it was October. I was not in the mood for it. So maybe that's why I have a sour taste. But based off of everything that I've said about the show Monarch, would you give the pilot even a half a chance?
I mean, out of morbid curiosity to see why Susan Sarandon did TV, I guess the answer is yes. But I wasn't interested in Empire. I wasn't interested in Nashville. Like the music, the premise of a musical dynasty family does not interest me in whatsoever. Especially, I have to imagine a lot of people listened because they got the parody or like copy, or I'm sorry, like cover rights to do all of these songs, and I know that's what tickles people's fancy every now and then. So, other than that, I don't think I'm watching this one.
Yeah, I feel like every year there's like 6 primetime soap shows that come out now that all last for half a season, and I haven't watched any of them to this point, so I'm probably not going to start on Monarch either. Sorry, Jeff.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
the Good Wife took all the drama and they used it wisely, and no one's topping the Good Wife.
Well, for those who might have heard my short description of the show and are like, I need more, it's on Hulu. I don't know how long it will be there. Max, why don't you tell us a little bit about your show?
Absolutely. So I picked a 30-minute comedy from Netflix called Blockbuster.
Oh boy.
Ooh. And was it a blockbuster?
So we'll find out. So Blockbuster being on Netflix dropped its entire run on November 3rd of this year. It lasted 10 episodes. There will be no more. It's described as being operating the last Blockbuster video store in the United States. Timmy Yoon and his employees fight to stay relevant. So this show actually comes from a pretty big name in the sitcom world right now. It was created and written by Vanessa Ramos. This is her first time working as a showrunner, but she's been a writer and producer on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Superstore, Keenan, and Crashing at HBO with Pete Holmes. Will that come into play later again? We'll find out.
We have a couple of connections then.
Oh no.
But this idea doesn't necessarily come organically from Ramos. There's a guy who's a producer on this. His name is John Fox, and he used to be an executive at DreamWorks and Fox, ironically. And
that makes
now
more sense.
He does. I wish there was a term for this, but he does like these big movies, like these big summer movies, popcorn flicks, franchises. If only there was a word to describe.
I've always called them family videos, but
Yeah, he does big cinematic family videos that come out in the summertime. So,
like My Cousin's Wedding, that was a pretty big cinematic family video.
So, Fox, the producer, not the channel that Monarch is on, he acquires all of the image and likeness rights to Blockbuster Video and basically wants to create a workplace comedy because he owns this IP, which feels like such a weird place to root starting a show in. Just like, yeah, I'm rich and I bought the rights to a company's logo. Now I need to hire someone to make a TV show for me.
You're talking to two business majors. We're all terrible.
Yeah.
So basically, Blockbuster takes place in a strip mall in Granville, Michigan. And the episode starts off with Timmy, played by Randall Park, who essentially it starts off with him helping a customer, played by Carl Tart, who he says that he hasn't seen this guy in a long time. He used to be a regular and he wants to know what happens. And Carl Tart, I forget his character's name, so I'm just going to call him Carl Tart, cuts him off and is like, Netflix. I've been doing Netflix like everybody else. and so they basically say the joke right up front, like nobody goes to Blockbuster anymore. And Timmy gets a call from corporate that every other Blockbuster has gone out of business. They're even liquidating the Blockbuster office that his boss is calling from on the phone, and that this Granville, Michigan location is the only Blockbuster left in the entire business. Corporate's gone, so basically Timmy's on his own to run Blockbuster as we know it. So he gets this call. He's trying to help Carl pick a movie recommendation to get over his breakup. Carl's mad because Netflix keeps recommending him to watch The Great British Bake Off, which he says triggers him because his wife Amanda left him for a pastry chef from Manchester. Um, this show makes so many references to Netflix properties. There's jokes about Great British Bake Off. There's jokes about Bridgerton. It just constantly advertises other Netflix shows
Ugh.
throughout it.
Would you say that feels organic, or
No. This entire
It sounds
this
like the new Space Jam.
this entire thing. Yes, it is. It's the Space Jam thing, or like the reps I made. We were talking about Atlanta for like good shows, where it's like instead of taking a reference and blowing it out into a new joke or a new idea, the joke is just the reference. It does that throughout the entire thing. You get that scene where all of the ensemble characters come in one by one and have a zippy one-liner to tell you who they are. There's like the sweet, naive young coworker whose last boss definitely sexually harassed her all the time, but she's like naive and blissfully ignorant to it. You got like the brass loud coworker. You've got the movie buff who doesn't want the Blockbuster to close because he needs to follow Quentin Tarantino's footsteps by working at a video store. There's an older woman who is played by a grossly underused Olga Merediz, who is a Tony nominee for In the Heights. She plays the abuela in the movie version. And her whole joke is that she recommends movies, but she doesn't remember the names of the movies. So she just kind of like vaguely describes things that she thinks it gets all the actors wrong. Very funny. And then Melissa Fumero is also in this. She
which
was
is wild.
Amy in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And her thing is that she went to Harvard for a semester and then dropped out. And now she's back in her hometown and we don't really know why. Look,
Max is so heartbroken.
I everything in this show, I'm just gonna say, it feels like the first pass of a joke, and then they just shot it. Everything in here, it feels like they had a day to shoot this episode.
Oh, God.
Everything feels so rushed, so blown through. It's just a lot of references to movies. Randall Park's character to like motivate everyone when they think that their Blockbuster is going to close too, gets on top of the counter and attempts to do the Bill Pullman Independence Day monologue. But there is a plot. They decide that they're going to have a block party using all of their friends who have independent businesses in this strip mall to like drive up membership at the Blockbuster. So Randall Park teams up with his old buddy, JB Smoove. He has a character name. I don't remember what it is. I'm just gonna call him JB Smoove. Oh, it's Percy. So Timmy and Percy, who owns a party store, they team up, and Percy is Timmy's old high school buddy. He's the reason why Timmy is the only person in the state of Michigan to have ever gotten a ZUI, which is when Timmy drunkenly drove a Zamboni through someone's living room wall in high school. And Percy is going to hook up Darren with DJs and fireworks and a giant inflatable gorilla that he usually loans out to car dealerships to throw this big membership drive block party. And then everything goes awry at the block party because JB Smoove's fireworks accidentally launch into the gorilla, and the gorilla topples over and everyone goes running. So Carlos, played by Tyler Alvarez of American Vandal fame, the wannabe Quentin Tarantino character, he like films people running through the parking lot, and it's revealed later that he made like a kind of crude Instagram Reels edit where it looks like the gorilla is attacking people, and the local news comes to the Blockbuster to cover the gorilla attack because the joke is that the news in this town is dumb. It's just described as the news is dumb, and they think a gorilla actually attacked people. And from that video, they get this huge membership drive because of Carlos's viral video. Carl Tart pops up again at the end to say that Randall Park's video recommendation to him was so perfect and got him through his breakup. And then Carl Tart shouts, "Algorithms can suck it. Long live Blockbuster." And that's the end of the episode.
Wow.
So
More Carl Tartan everything. That's my one takeaway from this.
I have no less than 30 questions.
All right. Well, first,
But
let me just say
but
what I do like.
okay.
I do like that I got to see a Broadway actor who I respect, and I'm glad that just everyone from the cast of season 1 of American Vandal is doing good work. Tyler Alvarez getting to be in this, Jimmy Tatro starring in Home Economics at ABC, Eduardo Franco starring in movies like Booksmart and the new season of Stranger Things, Lucas Gage starring in season 1 of The White Lotus,
Yeah,
even
they're killing
Lou
it.
Wilson being Jimmy Kimmel's new announcer. Season 1 of American Vandal was great. I'd rather talk about that than this show. I can't, though, because it didn't come out this year. Yeah, I don't know. I like that they were working. I don't really like anything else about this. I'm going to be completely honest.
So, Max, I'm going to ask if you could make one change to the show, because spoiler, I have also seen this pilot, but it was not for our podcast. If you could make one change to the show to try to improve it, what would you do?
So I would actually just strip away everything that has to do with Blockbuster. I think a workplace sitcom in 2022 about a video store has legs to it. It's interesting because like physical music, even in the streaming area, still has cachet. We have record stores. There's even like a CD boom happening again in the last few years. New artists releasing cassette decks, whether it be for irony or for actually wanting that medium. But for some reason, movies and TV aren't quite getting that same like physical
Hmm.
medium love that music does.
Yeah.
So I think there is something inherently funny in the idea of that. This thing just doubles down so hard on everything being about IP, and I hate using that phrase in entertainment because, but like, there's no like heart or soul here. It's
Yeah.
just jokes about references, and then their attempts to actually make original jokes just feel like first pass jokes from Superstore and Brooklyn Nine Nine. There's a line where Melissa Fumero's character makes a joke about how like Timmy is in his like 30s and still has roommates, and his response is he shouts, "Roommate, Darren is missing," and like they don't ever address things like that. There's a really awkward like one line mission statement where you kind of blink and you miss it, and it's when Timmy Randall Park's character says that uh, it's not about places. He misses people, and that's like his whole thing about
Mm.
why he still wants to work at a Blockbuster. Is he believes in the idea of like community and connecting with people on a face to face
Yeah.
level. I also just couldn't get the ick out of my mouth about this being on a streamer.
Yeah.
There's just
Mhm.
something. It's not even ironic. It's just kind of gross about all these jokes about how nobody watches, like nobody gets DVDs. We stream everything, and like being so plugging everything on Netflix, and then at the end to twist it to like suck it Netflix. It feels so tongue in cheek. Like, hey
Mhm.
guys, we can make fun of ourselves too. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, the vibes were off. If I had to sum it up, the vibes are off.
Yeah.
We are a vibes-based podcast, so this makes me feel better about that.
I would say, you know, Big Mouth started to do this too. There's like there over the last like year or two, everyone started like making fourth wall breaks about being on Netflix and stuff like that. I know we talked about like Big Mouth like fucking with the intro flow and stuff like that, and like you should click skip intro or don't click skip intro because we have like more to show you or something like that.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I mean, just show us, like we don't need to know that we're on Netflix. We just like want to watch something fun. It is, I really do not like the IP based show, and
Mhm.
I can tell you how to fix this show. Set it in 1995 and have the problems be around 1995, and
Like
have like more of a nostalgic thing where things aren't solved by cell phones, and
Yeah. Like what I go back to and what I think actually would be really fun is like we have seen a show go into a movie rental like store and be successful. And like that one scene in Dawson's Creek was pretty funny and had some problematic jokes in it with like the teacher wanting to hook up with the student, but whatever. But like that still was a basis of like, oh, there's something here.
Hmm.
I would love if they went back to when Blockbuster and Netflix was just starting, right? Like, and like there was like this idea of like, oh, Netflix sends DVDs right to your house. You don't have to go in store. And like make a joke about the beginning of the demise of Blockbuster as a whole. And
Yeah.
there's a little bit more. Like if you put it, like 20 years in the past, like there's something there that I think could have been a great show. But like, Max, do you even want to ask us if we'd watch this show?
Yeah, did I sell you guys on it? Did I do a good job? Did I sell it?
I'm actually, I would say I would watch this negative times because I really like Randall Park and Always Be My Maybe, and I
Yeah.
really don't want that to ruin my perception of him. Carl Tart as well. Carl Tart's on the come up. I want him to have more roles. Put Carl Tart in a lot more things.
And there's so many. The thing is, there's so many people I like, and there's so many people from that like NBC Universal world in this. You know, other adjacent projects
I love Melissa Fumero.
Yeah, I love Melissa Fumero. I really like Olga Merediz. I really like JB Smoove. He's really funny, like in cameo roles and things. You know, Tart being on Grand Crew at NBC and formerly being part of the writers' room at 9/9 with Vanessa Ramos. Like, there's a lot of good people in this, but I don't know. Am I just an old fogey? Like, do I just not think that a show that's 90% jokes about algorithms and IP is like a good idea? Am I like
they canceled it, so you're not alone.
Okay. Yeah. What I would say, same Max, I have the same sort of thing. I like everyone who you just talked about. I love them. I think that the work that they've done is great work. I hope they find other work, and like I hate to say it's bittersweet that this got canceled because then they're out of a job, but they're also out of a contract, so that means they can go and work on something hopefully.
Yeah, if you're gonna watch anything on Netflix comedy wise, go back and watch season 1 of American Vandal.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Rich, round us out because you went with something a little different.
I sure did, and I went with something that I did not know existed until Max told me. I went with the CBS sitcom How We Roll, which is a show that didn't even last 2 months on the air. We got 11 episodes of it made. I don't know how much was actually aired. And Max, we actually have a couple crossovers now that you mention it. Between our two shows, because my show also takes place in Michigan, and like Blockbuster, I had to rent it. So I paid $1.99 to watch this episode on YouTube, because even though it is a CBS property, they have not put it on Paramount Plus. So you can see how much like attention and focus and love that they've given to this show since it aired. This show is very much we had the right people, why didn't anyone fix this type situation. So the show was created by Mark Gross. It has the director Mark Sandrowski, who is notable for directing the most amount of Big Bang Theory episodes. So it's someone they have, 249 of them. He directed 249 of Big Bang Theory episodes. So they put a lot of money into this guy already. They know he knows what he's doing. Also, one of the main writers is Michael Glauberman, and Michael Glauberman, you will know from writing and directing and producing Third Rock from the Sun, Malcolm in the Middle, like some of my like all-time favorite sitcoms. They had the absolute right people to do this. I think the problem was in the writer's room. From looking at the IMDb pages here, the writer's room is composed of a lot of like pretty young like comedy writers, a lot of people who haven't had a lot of chances on things, and I could tell that, like, you know, super stoked to be part of this writer's room and everything. However, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of good, like, it seems like there was a lot of yes-anding with how the script sounds. It's not like people weren't being critical enough of how the jokes are, because oh boy, the jokes in this are truly horrendous. So the series is started on March 31st, ended on May 19th of this year. The series is inspired by the life of professional bowler Tom Smallwood, who I did not think had a compelling enough story because, like, I mean, the project was sold in 2021 under Untitled Tom Smallwood Project, which does not get my heart racing. I'm so sorry.
Wait, they didn't keep that
So
title?
they did not keep that title.
Yeah, Jeff really likes that title.
I like the. It sounds like a great album.
Is that why we named the podcast Untitled Jeff Kerbis Project? So the premise: a 35-year-old Midwestern husband and father gets laid off from his auto plant job, makes the bold decision to provide for his family by following his dream as a professional bowler. Already total snooze fest on that one. I totally I'm here for the plot of, like, this guy providing for his family while they're, like, trying to not get their utilities cut off and stuff like that. That's very interesting. However, none of the people in this really sell that they're in dire straits. Like, none of them seem to, like, I feel like the acting is okay, but they just they don't raise the stakes at all. Also, one massive thing that I learned about after watching this is that while it is technically based on professional bowler Tom Smallwood left college to join the pro bowling circuit when he was 19. So this has no ties to his life at all.
Wait, what?
And
Yeah.
his dad was the person who worked in an auto plant when he was growing up in Michigan, and who didn't leave to like become a professional bowler. He was really good at bowling at 19, won a tournament for $10,000 at 19, and decided, fuck college, I'm gonna do this from now on. So significantly less inspiring tale. I don't know where this story comes from, but it stars Pete Holmes, who obviously starred in Crashing, which I really loved. He's also one of my favorite joke writers. I think he's, like, a really talented comedian. I think he gets an awful lot of opportunities for what he does. But that is to say, like, he works really hard. I think he's a very, like, interesting and enigmatic person for how, like, dorky his jokes are. But the pilot, I mean, he's kind of like a sad sack husband type character. He doesn't really give you anything to really like about him. That's really, like, I mean, he's, like, very nice, but it also takes place in the Midwest, so everyone's very nice. Mm-hmm. You immediately get an overbearing mother character, which has been, like, a trope since the first TV was invented. The wife character, played by Katie Lowes, who you'll remember very recently as the trusting reporter friend in Inventing Anna. I forgot her last name. Her fake last name.
Anna Delvey.
Anna Delvey, the Anna Delvey story. So very strange trajectory on that one.
Also a bowler, big bowler.
Yeah. That's what she did with all that money, just bowling.
I bowled a 300. You didn't see it. Okay, so the two biggest characters in this or the two biggest actors in this are Shy McBride, who you would recognize from give me a second, I can count myself back in. I forgot. He was on Boston Public. He was also in Gone in 60 Seconds. He had 160 episodes on Hawaii Five-0, 61 episodes as Nick Fury in Ultimate Spider-Man. Like, has done quite a bit. Second most, like, accomplished actor in this is Taj Mowry. Taj Mowry made his first debut on an episode of Who's the Boss when he was 4 years old. And then since then has been, like, a series lead in, like, several or series regular in several things, like Baby Daddy, Kim Possible. There's, like, a ton of, like, he has a pretty long list of projects that he's been in. These two actors are not a massive part of the story. They are bowling alley employees. One of Shy McBride becomes Pete Holmes's, like, bowling coach. Pete Holmes essentially can, like, bowl 260 games on a regular basis, and the average of a professional bowler who makes a lot of money is like 250 or below. And so it's not. He starts like getting into, after losing his job, he starts getting into the premise of like, oh, maybe I could become a professional bowler. Like they're watching bowling on TV, and it's like, this guy's about to win X amount of dollars and bowling at a lower score than he just did in a practice game. But the show just like does not make this compelling whatsoever. Like, you know, the jokes are wildly sitcom-y. Okay, so we have a sassy, smart mouth kid, an overly understanding wife, and then a smothering mother/mother-in-law that lives very close to the house and can drop in at a moment's notice.
Sure.
One of the jokes that I wrote down that was extremely hacky was, "Did you love working at the factory?" And his kid asked, "Did you love working at the factory?" Pete Holmes replies, "You know when Mom makes meatloaf and we both say we love it? It was like that." I was like, that is the type of humor that you have in this, and I don't understand why there wasn't more of like an editing or a filtering process for the jokes in this, because I know with the names that are attached to this, they could figure it out better.
What I'll say is, I think Pete Holmes is a charming dork, right? I think that he is someone that we all know a Pete Holmes, but he's just a funnier version. So it's really disappointing to hear you say like the jokes are just, it sounds like the jokes are a less dorky version of what Big Bang Theory did, and they were just like Big Bang Theory but make it Midwestern bowling. Like that's sad.
It wasn't even that. I feel like, because I've been forced to watch some episodes of Big Bang Theory because my parents like it.
Clockwork Orange style.
Yeah, it's just like, I just really do not like that show.
Bazinga.
But like, I can still recognize that the jokes are well thought out. Like, they're not great, but they're still like a good premise and everything. This is more like, it's so heavily trodden joke territory that it was probably hacky 30 years ago to go over this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bummed out. Number one, that, I mean, and I think in the new year we're going to cover Mulaney, of just like a talented comedian who's like far beyond the joke writing of this show. And you see that a lot, and I have to imagine in the same like line as Mulaney, and everything I've heard about Seinfeld is that they try to keep the network executives as far away from the creation process as possible, because I think what happens is if you let them get their paws in it, that's what happens. They're like, okay, what about a joke about meatloaf, or the mom's cooking or something like that, and I'm
Midwestern
like, okay,
people love
maybe
meatloaf.
That was funny. Yeah, that was like barely funny on like I Love Lucy. It's like, it's such well-worn joke territory, and I know the writers were not proud of that when it came on.
Yeah, I mean, this just sounds like a really like by the book, overly safe CBS multicam, and some of them work. I mean, I haven't seen it, but it feels like Ghosts is kind of a hit for them right now. But a lot of these shows really come and go for them, and it just feels like this is appealing to, the Midwest, and it just didn't fire.
Yeah, and I looked through the Wikipedia for like remaining episodes just to see if it like the premises improve at all. He doesn't even start going to a bowling tournament until episode 4. So that means there's 3 episodes of them just talking about it. And then there's an episode called The Laundry Basket, and I just want to read to you guys the premise just so you can understand how fucking terrible this show is. When Tom finds Helen is his mom, stuck in a laundry basket at her home, and learns she's been there for hours, he suggests he move into his house, much to Jen's chagrin. Jen is the wife. Meanwhile, Jen is frustrated over looking for a new job, but soon learns that some of her salon clients are willing to get their hair done in her home. Hijinks ensue. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I truly, like, I just don't understand why it had to be so ham-fisted. They could have got better writers for this.
All right, I got a new pitch for you guys.
Yeah.
So it's a sitcom
about darts.
It's about a mother-in-law who gets stuck in her laundry hamper.
No,
And
no,
so,
no, Max.
Nope.
You can't read your search history for us again.
and so she gets taken in by her juvenile, naive son-in-law to live with them. But the entire time she's in the laundry hamper,
She's just
we
stuck
never
in-
see.
This
It's just
sounds
her-
like
it's just
the
her
less.
feet.
This sounds like the less interesting version of all of the grandparents in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah,
just
so
being in the
just
bed.
it's just feet flailing in the air, and it's called Hamper Down.
Oh my god! I think we just sold our first pilot. Rich,
All right, I guess I'll get a bigger house. Let's go.
so like my thing is when you describe this, like one, if you have not watched Ghosts, I recommend it. It's actually a really good single cam, and I love everyone who's in
Okay.
that show. It's actually really funny. But I think we as a society, and I will stand on the carpet that I am on right now and say, should move past the multicam. We are like when Big Bang Theory ended, I think as a whole, we should probably say goodbye to the multicam and we have moved past it. But
I disagree. I really think when the right idea comes around, they can do it, because like I really enjoyed How I Met Your Mother. Obviously, I started watching that when I was in like high school and college, so you know, different frame of mind. Like it was still, I think, you know, the multicam just makes writing the most important thing, and I think that's good. I think episodes should have like really strong, like I mean some of my favorite shows still, Seinfeld, Cheers, etc., all really strong multicams that probably could be updated,
could be made
to
today.
work today. Yeah, and like I just think, you know. Okay, so one of the creators of the show also created Mike and Molly, another like extremely popular run on CBS. And don't get me wrong, like I don't think this show did poorly. Like the pilot got 4.2 million. They didn't have a single episode that was lower than 2.97 million in like viewership, which isn't super impressive. I mean, in the last show before it got canceled, 3.06.
Well, the
Like,
audience
that's
fell
nothing.
asleep with the TV on an hour
Yeah,
before.
no,
And it just stayed
that could
on.
be it.
I got a
that
question
could
for
really
the
be it.
forum. So, based on the character that this show is inspired by, being a bowling prodigy who entered his first tournament at 19, we went to a school that offered bowling as an elective.
Sure.
Do you think we messed up? Should we have all taken bowling?
Yeah, I mean, if I could win $10,000 bowling a 240 in a tournament, that sounds pretty solid.
As long, I feel like if I could take a bowling class, as long as I'd be able to then say, whenever people are like, you want to go bowling, and not be that coy, sheepish, could we use lanes possibly, or like have dividers? That would make that bowling class well worth it. Bumpers, we're doing bumpers, right? Like
I'll just say everyone needs lanes to go bowling. It's a very essential part of the sport.
Also, they could have just called this "Stay in Your Lane," which is the
name. That's a great name.
A better name for a show with a guy trying to decide between two career paths. Perfect.
Rich, anyways, you're just proving more and more that you need to be a producer.
I'm gonna put my resume in the episode notes of this. Also, okay, so I want you guys to just like understand how much CBS gave up on this show, because after looking at the Wikipedia on like the air dates and everything, they started doubling up.
Oh no, that's a bad sign.
Yeah, so there it goes from like, all right, weekly, March 31st, April 7th, April 14th, April 21st, and then April 28th, April 28th, and then May 12th, and then May 19th, which means they had to like, I mean, they're literally trying to burn things up. They're trying to get rid of these episodes, which
that's wild.
Sucks. I mean, like I wanted more for Pete Holmes. Like I really enjoyed Crashing. I thought Crashing was one of like the better shows about like realistic comedy stuff. You know, it's not super realistic. He makes it in comedy like in a year. But you know, I just like I'm really disappointed. We do, however, get one massive benefit from one of the creators of the show having worked on Third Rock from the Sun. And that is, we got notable guest French Stewart.
Yes!
Oh, hell yeah. Let's
Yes!
go.
I did not watch that episode, and I won't.
All right. So,
Yeah.
Rich, are you even going to suggest that we are asked the question of if we would watch this pilot or not?
Literally no. No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear both of you guys say no for different reasons, and then we burn a couple minutes on that one. Instead of my game of the week, I want to just say that the rental for this episode cost $1.99, and I'm gonna just list off of a couple other things that I could have used that $1.99 on. So 6 minutes of air at the gas station tire pump, parking for 15 minutes in New York City, one Redbox movie, a gallon of gasoline in 1998, one Taco Bell taco, one sport bottle of Poland Spring water, 20 ounces or more, half dozen eggs, 2 collagen sheet masks, and the song Torn by Natalie Imbruglia on iTunes twice.
Well,
and that is my list of things that I could have spent $2 on instead.
That is wonderful. Rich, thank you.
You are very welcome.
So I actually do have a legacy that I want to talk about this week. And this is the legacy of 2022 for television. So including these 3 shows that we just talked about, there were 110 different shows that were canceled in 2022. 43 of them were only in their first season. Now that might seem super doom and gloom for those who are aspiring to create a TV show, but I got good news for you. In case you're worried, there were 564 TV shows that got renewed in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I did want to mention a couple of shows that ended on their own terms, very similar to Dottie in Monarch. We have Atlanta, Better Call Saul, Blackish, The Crown, Dairy Girls, The Flash, Gracie and Frankie, Killing Eve, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, A Million Little Things, Ozark, Peaky Blinders, Riverdale, This Is Us, The Walking Dead, and Whose Line Is It Anyways, who ended their run after 12 seasons. So
wait. This is how I find out that Maisel ended?
Yeah, I believe it's getting one more season maybe next year, but they announced they will not be renewing it for multiple seasons.
Oh, wow.
So there is some hope for us. With that all said, gentlemen, as we wrap up the year of television that is 2022, looking bright-eyed into 2023 and the pilots that it might bring us, where can we find you both?
Well, just really quick, if you're upset that we didn't talk about Ed O'Neill for the 3rd week in a row, don't worry. He's going to be playing disgraced NBA owner Donald Sterling in FX's The Sterling Affairs next year.
God.
So we'll be coming at you with more Ed O'Neill in 2023. Don't you worry. You can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Singh. You can find original sketch comedy for myself and Rich over on TikTok at Dadwagon Comedy.
You can find me wondering how they turn the Donald Sterling voicemails into a series over on Instagram at Damn That's Rich. You can also please follow us on TikTok, Dadwagon Comedy. I'm so sorry that you had to hear about how we roll today. I deeply apologize.
I regret nothing about Blockbuster.
And you will find me conspirizing why Fox's marketing department decided to just talk about Susan Sarandon with Monarch. You can also find me on social media at RunJeffRun on Instagram and Twitter. You can find the TV Pilot's License anywhere you listen to podcasts, as well as on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at the TV Pilot's License. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, you can email us at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us an email at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch our Instagram because sometimes we do competitions. Sometimes we'll sneak preview episodes that are coming up and we'll be looking for your questions. With the plane landed for the last time in 2022 and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then...
Old acquaintance be forgot.
I will fight Pete Holmes.
See you in 2023, everyone.
Happy New Year, y'all.